What's up and welcome back to another live stream slash edited cut down, which will be on the main channels later, of the absolute best deals that you can find on gaming laptops in July 2023. Now, a bunch of these sales just started like literally today, but some of them have also been going on for a few days. Now, we're going to go over, I think, 18 different deals today, and it's going to be across a wide range of prices starting at $599. Then we're going to have some at like the $800, $1,000 mark, some around the $1,300, $1,400 mark. And then we're jumping all the way up to the more expensive RTX 4080 and 4090 gaming laptops that I think are like the very best overall bang for the buck. And, yeah, so we're going to go through all of those. We're going to show you the best ways to buy them, the best places to buy them. There'll be links. Well, there's not links to each individual deal because there'd be just so many links in the description, but there is a link to my laptop spreadsheet where you can find all the rest of the links. So please drop a like on the live stream if you enjoy this topic. If you want to see more of these videos, this is my all 2023 gaming laptops rank spreadsheet. So this has over 311 laptop listings now on here. We've got benchmarks for almost every laptop to give you a rough idea of CPU performance and GPU performance, as well as the value versus the dollars you are spending. So all of the best laptops here feature at least $8 or higher points per dollar. Now, some of the laptops down here also have really good deals. There are some good deals spread throughout. So just because it's not in this video list doesn't mean necessarily that it's not a great deal. There are some really good deals out there that are not quite in this list, maybe partially because like I'm doing like one configuration of that laptop in this list, but maybe there are 2 or 3 configurations in the list, like for example, the Omen 17, you can get that with a 4060, 4070, 4080, or 4090, and I'm just putting the 4090 in the deal list, and the other versions of that laptop are also on sale, and they're also really good. So depending on the laptop, there may be multiple configurations for that laptop in the list down below. So if there's a laptop that you're particularly interested in and you want to see all of the available configurations, you can use the sheet here to filter. So if you wanted to see all of the Omen 17 versions that you can potentially buy, I put the 4090 version up here in the top deals section, but as you can see, the 4060 version's on sale for $1249. Not a particularly amazing deal, that's why it didn't go up under the top, but it's a pretty decent deal considering the quality of the processor and everything else you're getting with the machine. But the 4090 version being a QHD display, 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of DDR5, and an RTX 4090. It's the cheapest 4090 that money can buy right now, and it's less than $2,500. So that's one of the deals that we're going to be talking today. But just know there are multiple deals down below for each of these configurations, and almost all of the available configurations for almost all of the gaming laptops that are out there are located somewhere on this list. Not quite all of them, but like all the major configs, like with the different GPUs primarily, and sometimes even with multiple CPUs for that same laptop, depending. But if we listed every possible combination, there'd be like 1,000 or 2,000 laptops on this list. So we try to maintain it and keep it down to just the major CPUs and GPUs on this list. Now, the best way to use this list is to look at the top deals section, which right now has 18 different laptops. And then you can also scroll down through here. You can filter by specific GPUs. You can filter by price points over here on the pricing on the left. And so if your price point is the $1,000 to $1,500, you can just type $1,000 to $1,500 over here. And you'll be able to filter down to your exact budget range. And then from there, you can also sort by most powerful time spy score, which is going to give you the most powerful GPU, or you could filter by the most powerful Cinebench score, which is going to give you the most powerful CPU typically within that price range. And then from there, you can click on each of these listings and you'll see pictures for each of the laptops, as well as if I've done a review or if we've posted a review from another reviewer for a video of that laptop. You can easily click through and watch any reviews. Now, there are also benchmarks on here, which you can find under the benchmark sources. And if the benchmark numbers are rounded, then that likely means that it is an estimated value. So take it with a grain of salt and check detailed reviews if you can find them on that laptop, because some of these laptops don't have detailed reviews, or we weren't able to find the benchmark number specifically for that exact configuration for that laptop. So we estimated based on similar configs that have a similar power range or power design for that processor or GPU. So yes, tons of work have been put into this laptop sheet once again, and I feel like it's ready for prime time once again. There are, on this sheet, you've got battery size, graphics power, ports quality rating, and basically the ports quality rating is if it has a perfect selection of ports, it's a 100% rating, and for each type of port it is missing, it is docked like either 5 or 10%. Like if it's missing a USB-A or different ports, basically it'll just keep going down. There's an exact rating system that we're using for the ports rating. You get the laptop weight, so if you want to filter or sort by certain sizes of laptops. You also have display size. You can filter for smaller displays, larger displays, and total volume, which is also great for portability. If there is you want a very portable system, you're going to be looking for like 130 cubic inches or smaller. You could go as low as like 100. It can be very, they can get very small. Like if I go to the G14, let's see how big the G14 total volume, 80 cubic inches for the G14. So that's like an example of a really, really portable laptop right there. You can also filter by thickness, and there's also tech specs links, which can link you to the technical specs for each laptop in the list as well. So this will let you go and see all the different configs, all of the details on the ports and display quality, that at least claims by the manufacturer regarding display quality and all of that. So there's a ton of detail on this sheet, and I would encourage you to spend some time over here on it, shopping around. And of course, once you do decide to buy, there is a link to where you can buy each of the laptops down at the bottom of each listing. And we do update this every day to try to make sure that the pricing is accurate and stock and availability is accurate. So we're monitoring these laptops for when they go on sale and when they're not on sale. So when we move we move them in and out of the top deal section as well when they're on sale versus when they're not on sale. So I see a bunch of people hopping out of the live stream. Thank you so much to everyone hopping in. Again, I would invite you to like the live stream. And if you enjoy these kinds of videos, gaming laptops, gaming technology in general, I'd encourage you to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Yeah, really excited. Let's dive into all of the best deals for July 2023. And I'm going to narrow it down into my top 3 eventually here at the end. But we're going to go over primarily like the bulk of all the ones that I think are really, really good right now. Of course, I'm going to miss some. I'm sure there's some out there that there's so much data out there, but this is going to be a lot of good deals. Let's dive into it. First up, we have the Lenovo Ideapad Gaming 3. This has a Ryzen 5 5600H, RTX 3050 Ti, and 8 gig DDR4 3200 megahertz memory. Only $599, 256 gig SSD, and it's a full HD 120Hz. So this is the ultra budget gaming laptop. If you're in the market for like something for your kid, or you don't have very much money right now for a gaming laptop, but you want to be able to play 1080p games at reasonable settings, this is going to be able to play most 1080p games, no problem at medium to high settings, probably no ray tracing, and some of the newer games, you might have to turn the settings down extra low because it is only a 3050 Ti. But if you've got a $600 hard budget, you can't go more than that. This is going to be the most gaming performance for your money pretty much out there. You might be able to buy a used RTX 3060 for around the $600-700 price point. But that would be the next best bet, is going for that. And maybe eventually we'll see RTX 3060s going down to this $600 price point, but we haven't yet. The cheapest RTX 3060s are usually like $750, $800 still. So, and at $800, we're going to actually take a look at the RTX 4050, which is now $800 for the MSI Bravo. So the Bravo is another one of the cheap MSI gaming laptops out there. The big downside with going with the cheap gaming laptops from MSI is that they tend to have lower quality displays attached to these laptops and potentially lower TDP power limits as well. And that's like true of the MSI Cyborg, the GF63. The Bravo, it claims to have 105 watts TDP for the GPU. So you're supposed to get a good amount of power to the RTX 4050. Now you get a Ryzen 5 7535HS. Let's just look up that processor real quick. This processor is, because I'm not familiar with this processor off the top of my head. It's a Zen 3 Plus architecture. So it's not the latest Zen 4 architecture. It's 12 threads. And it looks like it's a 6-core, 12-thread, 35-watt part. It's obviously going to go more than that. 6 nanometer for the manufacturing technology. So it's older tech in this for the CPU. The display is also not that great. I don't think the Bravo 15 is going to be one of the very best deals. But if you're after like good amount of GPU performance, you don't really care about the display quality as much, this thing will at least mostly get the job done. It's really not one of my top recommended laptops though, because it also only has 8 gigs of RAM, which means you're going to have to upgrade the RAM to 16, maybe even 32 later on down the line. And I have not got my hands on with the Bravo 15, but it's basically very similar to the GF63 Katana series, or like the Pulse 15. But it is, yeah, this is like the ultra budget version, $799. It's the cheapest RTX 4050 we've seen so far. Obviously a lot of performance for your money, but it's not really my top recommended under $1,000. Let's talk about one of my top recommended. Okay, Acer Nitro 5. I have done a review on this. I did a detailed unboxing and live stream. This thing originally cost $999. It's on sale, $100 off. You get an i5 12500H. That's a pretty good processor. Not necessarily absolutely amazing, but it gets 14,752 in Cinebench R23. That's pretty good for an $899 laptop. One of the highest CPU performance you're going to get under $1,000 for sure. Now, the RTX 4050 is a high power 105 watt, and we saw a good amount of power going through that GPU, 8,775, not overclocked, with the RTX 4050. And this is going to provide excellent 1080p gaming performance. Most of the games can even run with ray tracing. As long as you're running DLSS 3 with frame generation, you can definitely run ray tracing in most of the games, and usually ultra settings at 1080p. Now, QHD gaming, you're going to be able to do some games at QHD, absolutely no problem, but you're probably not going to be able to do ray tracing and some of the fancier features at QHD resolutions. But this thing has a ton of power and performance for $899, and it's got the 16 gigs of DDR5 memory. It's got a 512 gig SSD, and the display is also higher quality than the MSI. So that's why I'm thinking if you got under $1,000, the Nitro 5 here, this thing is gonna it's gonna provide more bang for the buck and be a better overall gaming experience for the under $1,000 crowd than most of the other under $1,000 ones. Now, there are some other options under the $1,000. If you're a big fan of the Lenovo series, there is the Lenovo Ideapad Gaming 3. This is like a more powerful version of the $600 one. It's got a Ryzen 7 7735HS with an RTX 4050 at a higher-ish 85 watt TDP. Not quite max TDP, so a little bit reduced performance compared to the Acer Nitro 5. And it's got a full HD 120 Hz display. Again, a little bit better quality than the MSI budget displays, but not by a lot. It's a little bit lower refresh rate, but I think the colors on it were a little bit better, and the ghosting was also a little bit less noticeable compared to the MSI budget laptop displays. So, but for $899, it's another option out there. I think it's a worthy contender, especially if the Acer Nitro 5 sells out. But it's not like, again, I think the Nitro 5 is a better choice than the Idea Gaming Pad 3. Next, we have the Lenovo LOQ, or LOQ LOQ is usually how you say it, 16. This has a 16 inch display, so 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which is really great. That's a nice upgrade in a sense, right? And then you've got a Ryzen 5 7640HS processor, RTX 4050, 8 gigs of DDR5, 5600 RAM, 512 gig SSD. So downside immediately, only 8 gigs of RAM. You're going to have to upgrade this, but it's also a little bit cheaper, 863. Phenomenal game, phenomenal bang for the buck. The processor doing 12,655. Again, not as powerful as the Acer Nitro 5 processor, but it's pretty dang close, and it's a little bit cheaper than the Nitro 5. So I think this is a really good deal option, but just know that you're probably going to want to upgrade that RAM. I don't know if you can configure this when you order it. It can pop over to Lenovo's website. I don't think so. You just have to add it to cart. And you're going to want to also use, if you buy any of the Lenovo laptops, you're going to want to use the Extra 5 coupon codes. Be looking for the coupon codes and apply them. We're going to be adding a coupon code category to the laptop list, so be looking for that. It's going to be easy to find those coupon codes when we're just going to add this to cart. Let's see if we can apply a coupon code. Usually Extra 5 works, and then there might be some additional July sale. We'll have to do, I'll try to figure out what the best Lenovo coupon codes are, and I'll probably put it as a pinned comment on this live stream if I can. So, but note that the 863 price, see, I'm not sure if that's the current price or not. This may not be fully updated to the most recent, or maybe there's a coupon that I'm missing. But it's still, even at 963, it's still pretty dang good, right? But it's not quite as good a deal as we had listed on the sheet. We'll have to change that if it's not. We'll have to update it if the coupon code is not available. I'm pretty sure there's a coupon code we can apply here. Okay. Next up is probably one of the top 3 deals, one of the best deals for sure. It is the Acer Nitro 5. This is the 2022 design edition with a Ryzen 7 6800H processor. This gets 13,100 in Cinebench R23. That's very good. It's an 8-core, 16-thread processor, RTX 3070 Ti. This thing is phenomenal. That's a really high-power GPU, and this is rated at 150 watts to the GPU. So it's a very high TDP for the RTX 3070 Ti, and it's got a pretty decent port selection. It's a very plasticky, more budgety build still, but the big thing about it is just so much GPU performance and CPU performance for the money, and at the same time you're getting a QHD 165 hertz display. So 11,000 in time spy approximately. This gives the highest GPU performance per dollar of any of the laptops on the list. And yeah, $969 right now. Absolutely insane. I don't know. This thing is going to sell out. It was $999, and now it's even $30 more off. So absolutely phenomenal deal. I think this is probably the best deal for under $1,000 right now. It's my top pick. All right. So 1 terabyte SSD, that's bigger than normal. QHD display, that's rare under $1,000. And it's supposed to be a 100% DCI-P3 color gamut rated. So it's a high quality display, while at the same time having a great CPU and GPU. You can do anything with this laptop. You can video edit, you can stream with it. You can play all the latest games on the highest settings, mostly except for the latest titles. The QHD resolution is going to struggle some with the VRAM limitations in the latest games that are very high demand for VRAM. At QHD resolution, you might end up having to turn some of the textures down in some of the latest games. That's the main downside with going with this one, is that the 3070 Ti with only 8 gigs of VRAM is just not quite enough for some of the latest games. So I think there's, overall, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so chat was not loading for me. I had checked it a few times, but yeah, so checking chat. Okay. Ellie says there are Canadian links on the sheet too. Yeah, so that's true. Brent says, got an Omen 17 3070 Ti 12 for $11.99 brand new at Micro Center. Nice. Anyone know how to compare Ryzen with Intel? Never know how to compare what with what. Well, one of the ways you can compare Ryzen with Intel is with something like the Cinebench R23, which is like a CPU raw rendering for multi-core performance. The other big thing that I would use to compare is battery life, how long they can last on battery life. And typically I would say Ryzen is ahead in battery life, except for their new 16-core 32-thread processors. Those ones are actually not very good for battery life. But most of the new Ryzen CPUs that are 8 cores or less are phenomenal for battery life. The Intel i7 processors, the ones that are usually more like 10 or 12 threads, or 10 or 12 cores, 20 threads, those ones usually have good battery life as well. But the new i9 24 core 32 threads, those ones oftentimes don't have as good a battery life, just like the new Ryzen 16 core 32 thread ones. So it's really going to depend on which processor. The highest end, biggest core processors still don't have very good battery life necessarily on the newer laptops. Now, the other big thing to compare performance-wise for processors is going to be your gaming laptop performance in games, right? Because if you get a Ryzen processor versus Intel, certain games are going to be favoring Intel versus Ryzen or Ryzen versus Intel. So that's one of the top things to consider is what is your favorite game prefer? Like, for example, the Call of Duty Warzone 2 prefers Intel, getting more than 20 more FPS with the i9 versus the top Ryzen processor. But it's going to just depend on the game. Some games, like Red Dead Redemption 2, definitely prefer Ryzen. So it's just going to depend. But in general, most of the top-end processors are going to be phenomenal in almost all games. And it's going to be like, well, I get 10 less FPS with this one in this game and 10 more with that one in that game. They're within a 10%, 10 to 15% of each other almost all the time. Jared's Tech did do a detailed comparison with the Ryzen versus Intel. I have done those comparisons as well. I found Intel to be just a little bit faster in those high-end laptops. Jared found the Ryzen to be a little bit faster, but we had a different game selection, and I would attribute that to the reason why we had different results. So yeah, okay. Overall, I choose i9s because most of the esports games that I play prefer Intel, but AAA games I think tend to prefer Ryzen. That's kind of the way I think about it or see it. But overall, you're going to get high frames with either CPU. It's kind of like hard to go wrong, really. Okay, so overall, this Nitro 5 is my favorite pick for under $1,000. Moving on, we've got the MSI Katana 15. This thing has another crappy display on it, but you are getting an RTX 4060, which is one of the cheapest RTX 4060s money can buy at $999. So if you're after frame generation support, you want to play AAA games primarily, that's when like this thing, the MSI Katana 15, it'll put out higher frames than a 3070 Ti in frame generation supported titles, which is going to be, I think, the future. Like the vast majority of future launched games will support that. Right now it's like 35 games, but almost all of the 35 games are like the most popular games that you can buy pretty much. So that people are playing. So I would recommend getting a RTX 4000 series laptop over 3000 series, unless you're just after raw performance and you don't really care about frame gen. If you're an esports player, frame generation is not something to consider into your purchase or factor in at all. So, so yeah, I would not recommend this as a top pick, mainly because of the display. A full HD 144 hertz display is just not a super colorful display, but I would recommend this from a perspective of GPU performance per dollar, especially if you're going to primarily be hooking this up to an external display and you want the latest frame generation support and you want the most performance for your money under $1,000 with frame gen support, then this is going to be up there as one of the top picks for under $1,000. I don't know if it'd be the very top pick, but it'd be pretty close because it's one of the only RTX 4060s that you can buy with 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, and an RTX 4060 that's a higher power limit RTX 4060. Okay, HP Victus 16. We got an i5 13500HX. HX processors have more efficiency cores added for additional multi-core performance, essentially. The RTX 4060 in this, we got a 16 gig DDR5, 4800 memory, 512 gig SSD, a little smaller, and it's a full HD 144 hertz 250 nits display. So overall, this is going to have phenomenal CPU performance at 17,000. That's going to be really good CPU performance for your money. At $1,019, this thing's also going to have a really good graphics performance for your money as well. And if you're a fan of HP products, then this is also the new 16-inch display design from HP. Notice that it has a number pad here on the keyboard. That's different. Even the Omen 17 doesn't have a number pad, which is a little weird, right? But so you're getting the latest 16 by 10 aspect ratio display. You're getting the latest port support. Notice that the rear of the laptop's entirely designed for thermal exhaust. I have not reviewed the HP Victus 16 yet, but it's gonna be on my list for reviewing. So I think this is gonna be one of the very best laptops around $1,000 that you can get for the money, without a doubt. So definitely one to consider if you're a fan of HP products and you're on around $1,000 budget. I would definitely recommend this one over the Katana, I think. Primarily because it has a better CPU, and then it's got the, I believe it's going to have a higher quality display as well. I mean, I haven't tested this display technically, but the Katana display is basically as bad as it gets for gaming laptops. It's really not a great display. So I would anticipate this display to be a little bit better. Lenovo LOQ 15. Now this is stepping up to like the next tier of the LOQ. It costs $1,099, so $1,100. You're getting a Ryzen 7 7840HS, so you're getting a next-gen CPU with Zen 4 architecture, RTX 4060, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig, and a full HD 144 hertz 350 nits display. So you're getting a higher quality display that's a full HD, and it's a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, being a 15-inch, I believe. So it's not a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which some people actually are going to prefer 16 by 9. Most people, I think, are going to prefer 16 by 10, though. So that's one of the downsides and kind of upsides about going with 15-inch for 16-inch. 15-inch, of course, is going to be slightly more portable. Very, very minor difference there. Overall, the LOQ is, I think, a good value for your money. It's going to have decent build quality. It's not going to be super high-end premium, not much RGB on it. It's going to look like a basic business laptop, essentially, but it's going to have decent ports, good CPU performance, and it's a good amount of GPU performance for your money. I don't think it's the best GPU performance for your money out there, but it's a pretty awesome overall package. Moving on to the MSI Pulse 15. Now, this guy has an i7 13620H, really not that different from the i5 HX processors, very similar. RTX 4060 in this, but the big thing here is that you're getting RTX 4000 series with a really high quality, high color gamut display. So this is actually the opposite of the other MSI laptops. And when I reviewed this laptop, it was actually $1,500, and it's currently $240 on sale. So basically a massive discount compared to what it was at just like 4 months ago. And overall, I did like the Pulse 15. It's got a very vibrant keyboard. It feels good. It feels sturdily built. It weighs like right around 5 pounds, so it's still very portable. And the i7 processor is going to provide enough performance for video editing, streaming, all of that. If you want to check out, I did a whole Pulse 15 breakdown, unboxing, and review. It performed quite well and had pretty dang good temps overall, and the display is a really high quality QHD 165 hertz 100% DCI P3 color gamut display that it tested very well in my display test, and it's an overall great bang for the buck at $1249. But when I compare this, I basically think about like the Pulse 15 versus say like this Nitro 5 with the 3070 Ti. It's got a very similar display, almost the exact same display. Honestly, it might even be the exact same display, but it's rated to be the same. And I look at this versus the Pulse 15, and I think like this is just more bang for the buck when having almost all the same specs, slightly more raw GPU performance without the frame generation support. So overall, I think the Acer Nitro 5 with the 3070 Ti is still a slightly better pick as long as it's in sale. But this guy, yeah, this guy's great overall value. The Pulse 15, also really good overall value. If you were to pick between these two, I don't know. I think the Pulse 15 has a little better styling than the Acer Nitro 5, and it felt a little bit more put together, a little bit more solid. But overall, I think they're both good picks. But for the money, the Acer Nitro 5 is just better value. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick moment to talk with chat or check what chat is saying. Okay. Review Acer Predator Helios 16. I did the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16 recently. It's different than the Helios 16. Very confusing naming scheme. I do want to do the Helios 16 with like a 4080 and the mini LED display. Would you recommend the Asus ZenBook 14 Pro 4070 or the G14 4080 for the same price? Absolutely go with the G14 4080 if you're after the more GPU performance. I believe the ZenBook might have an OLED option though, an OLED display on it, so you're getting a slightly better display. But in terms of raw gaming performance, the G14 with a 4080 is going to crush the ZenBook 14, like massively, way more performance with the Zephyrus G14. And at the same time, I love the G14's design and build quality and overall feel. And if you want to know how to optimize the G14, check out my optimization video that I did on the live stream recently. It really, when you optimize that thing, it can be quiet, it can run cool, and it can have phenomenal performance all around. So if I were to pick a portable laptop, I would be picking up the G14 4090 with a mini LED, but that's obviously the highest end one. Clark says, I don't hate HP, yet haven't got a lemon like most people say they do. I mean, the thing is, any laptop can put out lemons. I've opened Acers. I've unboxed or bought and reviewed over 100 different laptops, and I've had bad experiences with almost every brand, and good experiences with most of them. So that's the important thing to keep in mind, is that almost every brand does have some lemons from time to time. Okay. Which site is the sale happening on? So if you want to, so people that are just hopping on, please check all of the links to all of these laptops for sale are right here at the top of my gaming laptops ranked list. So if you want to see the prices, they're all right here. You can click on these. And if you need to find the link, they're going to be right here at the bottom, like USA 1 or USA 2. And if there's any international links, they'll also be labeled there. There's a lot of international links now on the list. A lot of Canadian links and UK links and some international Amazon links as well. So we're still adding more links, but yes, there's a lot of links in there now. So let's move on to our $1,200 and up top picks. We're going to start with the Alienware M17. Let's see, Alienware M17 R5. So this has a Ryzen 9 6900HX, basically the top processor from that generation, the 6000 series generation of Ryzen processors. So, but it's last gen. It's not the latest gen, so you're going to get a discount because you're buying last gen. You're also looking at the RX 6850M XT. This GPU scores right around 11 to 12, like 11.9 K, basically in Time Spy GPU. That said, Radeon GPUs don't necessarily do as well in Time Spy as NVIDIA, so it's basically very similar to like an RTX 3070 Ti or 3080, depending on which laptop it's in. It's going to provide overall excellent performance in the vast majority of titles. Of course, there is no DLSS 3 or frame generation support, which is a downside if you're going to try to get, that's obviously not going to be supported because it's an AMD Radeon GPU. I have also ran into more issues with drivers with Radeon GPUs, but for like the vast majority of games, it's going to be good driver support, especially now that it's been out for well over a year. Now, from a value perspective, this laptop coming with the Ryzen 9 processor, a 6850M XT, that's great CPU, great GPU. At $1,200, like, I feel like that is very good value. Another very good value is 32 gigs of DDR5 memory, so you will not have to upgrade the memory in this pretty much at all. It'll be good on memory for like the lifetime of using the laptop, as long as you're just playing games. Certain applications will want more than 32 gigs, but I've never seen a game require more than 32 gigs of memory at this point. 1 terabyte SSD is phenomenal value, and you're getting a full HD 360 hertz display. So if you're after esports games, this thing is going to have the highest refresh rate out of all of the gaming laptops that I've talked about so far. So, of course, this is a 17-inch gaming laptop by Alienware. It's going to have some high-end ports on it. It's also probably going to run fairly warm. Some of the Alienwares, all the Alienwares that I've tested recently, they run a bit warmer. But they also are very high TDP power limits, and they really do push the performance envelope. This is a very large laptop at 7.3 pounds. So this is going to be one of the bigger, beefier laptops, and usually bigger and beefier laptops cost more. But in this scenario, it's actually not costing that much at $11.99. I feel like that's just very good value overall. And I think if you're okay with a Radeon GPU in your laptop, this is probably the best deal we have seen on a Radeon GPU since maybe the Strix G15 Advantage Edition went on sale for the same price, $11.99. So, and that had a QHD display, but 16, it has some trade-offs versus this laptop. So overall, this is an excellent deal. I can definitely recommend it. Alienware M17R5. I think a lot of people, if you're after a big laptop, this is probably the best value big laptop on the list right now for under $1,200 or around that price point. Now, the MSI Katana 15 with an RTX 4070, all right, $1,329, $170 off of the retail price. This is now the cheapest RTX 4070 that money can buy. It's a fairly high TDP, but not max TDP on the RTX 4070. I believe we were seeing a lot of 85 to 90 watts on the 4070 when under actual gameplay. I did do a detailed review unboxing of this MSI Katana. It got 11,300 in time spy, which is obviously very good. The problem with this laptop is that it comes with a full HD. It comes with the same crappy display that's on the Bravo 15 for $799. It's literally like the exact same display. It's low color gamut, it's lower levels of quality, and it's going to basically give you a basic display to be able to use. And it's also an i7-12650H, which is last generation CPU. And it's not that high of a Cinebench score. Look at that, only 10,874. Very weak overall CPU performance for this laptop, but the crowning jewel for this is literally like, it's an RTX 4070 that's the cheapest you can buy, and you got 16 gigs of RAM, you don't need to upgrade that. 1 terabyte SSD, you don't need to upgrade that. The Katana 15, if you're just looking for something very portable and the most GPU performance, a GPU focus, like this thing, it'll get the job done. It's definitely not my top rated pick by any means, but it's the cheapest RTX 4070. I would recommend spending a little bit more and getting a different one, but it's on the list for a reason, because it's the cheapest RTX 4070, right? So, I mean, it's got a claim to fame, and it's understandable that it's on the list, but like I said, it's not one of my top picks. It's just like, it's up there. Especially, it's one to look at if you're after frame generation support with a high amount of GPU performance for the money. That's basically the primary things. If you're going to mainly use it with an external monitor and only occasionally use the full HD display, and you don't plan on doing any video editing or photoshopping on it because the display's bad and the CPU is not that fast, this thing's going to have good gaming performance from a CPU perspective, just not good multi-core performance. All right, moving on. Acer Nitro 16. Ryzen 7 7735HS. So that's a previous gen, basically Ryzen 6000 series CPU. 13,700 on the CPU benchmark. RTX 4070, 16 gigs of RAM, DDR5, 512 gig SSD, a little bit small side for this price point. QHD 500 nits, 100% sRGB display. So a step up in display quality. It's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio display. I have ordered this laptop in, it is $1349. And this should be a high TDP, 105 watts, basically maxing out the wattage for the RTX 4070, around that 105 watt mark. It's got the new latest 16 by 10 aspect ratio, the new Nitro logo on the back. This thing should be a very high amount of bang for the buck. And since it's a much higher quality display, I'm much more inclined to recommend the Nitro 16 over the Katana 15, even though the Nitro 16 costs $20 more. That display and then the CPU upgrade, absolutely worth it if you can get this when it's on sale at $1349. All right, now the big downside here, in my opinion, is that the QHD display is going to require some more finagling. Again, same thing is true for the Acer Nitro 5 with the 3070 Ti, only 8 gigs of VRAM. That's going to be a bottleneck with a QHD display, so know that you're going to have to adjust settings in certain games to be able to get them to run smoothly, dropping textures primarily to a lower setting, or potentially the native render resolution using DLSS or FSR, for example, to be able to lower the render resolution so that you don't run into VRAM stuttering, because that's what happens when you run out of VRAM. The game starts stuttering like crazy. Like I said, I've got this laptop being shipped to me right now. It should be here in a few days, and I'll be able to do a full review on it. So expect that shortly. But I think it's definitely one of the very best deals right now for the under the $1,500 mark. I'd say this is close to the best deal. Asus TUF F15. This is like the TUF series is like kind of like their military grade gaming focus. I don't know. It's supposed to be extra durable. In my experience, it seems like the same build quality as any other gaming laptop. But anyway, the big thing here is that there's not so much of a gamery aesthetic to the TUF. It's got a bit more of like a militaristic design to the exterior, which I guess in some ways is a bit of a gamer. But it doesn't have a bunch of the RGB like that typically is associated with gaming. So some people like that. Now there is a illuminated backlight to the keyboard, but I believe it's just yellow for the backlight. It's not like a multicolor RGB. Now this laptop, I think, has a lot of value. It comes with an i7-12700H, so a previous gen processor, but it is an i7-12700H, so one of the better processors from the previous generation from Intel. RTX 4070 at a high TDP, at least 105 watts. I have got this laptop on order, and I will be reviewing it as well. Now, this laptop is not currently on sale, so we might see it actually go to a little bit lower pricing eventually at some point. But even at the default $1399 price point, Asus, I think, has priced this very competitively to be a superb overall deal. Now, 16 gigs of RAM, so you don't need to upgrade that, but it is only DDR4 3200, so a little bit slower on the RAM. 1 terabyte SSD, which is great to see, and it's a full HD 144 hertz 250 nits display, which is not quite as high a quality as like the Nitro 16. So I again would recommend the Nitro 16 over the TUF, especially given that the Nitro 16 is cheaper. But obviously, I think this display is going to be a little bit better in some ways. This laptop, and this laptop was also going to feature a little bit of premium features because Asus has this like new standard where they're doing advanced Optimus on everything. So it's going to have a mux switch with G-Sync. Overall, really solid value for a 4070. I've got this laptop on order. I'll be reviewing this. So be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the review of this guy. I think this is going to be one of my top recommended laptops overall, at least at stock pricing. If it ever goes on sale, it'll be like absolutely phenomenal deal. But right now, I think it kind of loses a little bit of its like edge against the Nitro 16, which is a slightly better deal because of the display quality, primarily, right? And it's also a 16 by 10 aspect ratio design, which I think a little more people will be into that than the 16 by 9 aspect ratio, given the chin here. But yeah, overall, phenomenal. MSI Vector GP68. This thing is bonkers in terms of its value. It's $19.99 right now. The MSI Vector GP, I don't know why it says 2057. Maybe it just didn't update or something. It should be $19.99 here on the price. $2,000 for an RTX 4080. This is the cheapest RTX 4080 we have seen all year. We've been monitoring all of these deals this whole time, and this is the cheapest. The biggest con to the MSI Vector GP68 is the full HD display is only 144 hertz, 45% NTSC. I'm like, how could they pair a 4080 and an i9 processor with such a crappy display? And this is definitely not the same display as the MSI Bravo. Even though it's rated at the same specs, this is a 16:9 aspect ratio display. And this MSI Vector, it has a 16:10 aspect ratio. This is the new design for the Vector. It's not the 16:9, it's 16:10. And we have not tested this display, so I don't know what color gamut and what brightness exactly we're looking at on here. I'm hoping it's better contrast ratio and better overall specs and everything than the ultra budget MSI stuff. But that's one of the things that the MSI is cost cutting, is the display quality in order to give you a 4080 at $2,000. So if you're after like around the $2,000 price point and you just want the most GPU performance for your money, and you're not particularly like, you don't need a QHD display, then this one is going to be the most GPU performance for your money at around the $2,000 price point, most likely, or pretty dang close to it. This is a laptop I'm trying to get MSI to send to me right now. They're trying to find a review unit basically to send out to me, and I really hope they do, because I think this is one of the best value RTX 4080s out there in the market. It's going to be 165 watts to the TDP on the 4080, which is not as high as 175 watts, not the maximum. But you look at the cooling system, it's got a good cooling system here. It's got a very modern design. It's a very similar design to the GE68, which oddly enough only features up to a 4070. So if you want a 4080, you actually got to go with this one. You got a full-size SD card slot on this guy, a great selection of ports all around. And the GP series typically is like it's like MSI were to take their most expensive laptops and change a few things, reduce the RGB, and swap out a couple things for some more budget items. And that's the GP series, basically. And usually the GP series provides some of the best bang for the buck out there. So if you're looking for a 4080, I would certainly give this one a consideration out there. But we've got two other laptops that we're going to talk about that also feature 4080s and 4090s. Let's talk about the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i. I have reviewed in detail the 4090 version of this. I've actually got it right over there. And I've got to see this in person. I really love the Legion Pro 7i overall in terms of a package that it delivers. For the money, the design, the build quality, the feel is phenomenal value. It costs $21.99. You're spending $200 more on this compared to the Vector, but you're getting a massively upgraded CPU. The CPU jumps up in core count significantly from last generation i9 to this generation i9, and it's an HX processor. I also prefer the features that the Legion Pro 7 includes compared to the Vector. The Vector not having advanced Optimus, probably not having G-Sync. The Legion series, I think, having a better keyboard design, better RGB implementation, a better QHD 240Hz 500 nits display. Obviously, the CPU performance being a massive difference between these two. 722 for the out-of-the-box Cinebench R23 score, and the Vector is only going to be getting 17,000. So you're getting a massive upgrade to the CPU. You're getting a massive upgrade to the GPU. This thing, absolutely a monster in terms of looks, design, and feature set. I really like it. Really good cooling as well. Good thermals on the Legion series, especially considering it features the highest watt TDP for the 175 watts, graphics power to the GPU. Okay. So Legion Pro 7, it comes with a 4080 or 4090. Right now, the 4080 is $2199, and that's phenomenal value. Let's talk about the 4090. 4090 version. 4090 version costs right now $2699. So that's going to be what, a $500 upgrade for the 4090. I think, obviously, if it's my money, I'd go with 4090 route, but that's me, right? So you're getting a RAM upgrade, it looks like, as well as the GPU upgrade for that price. Yeah, like I would go with the 4090 between these two, but if you're after like best bang for the buck, I would go for the 4080 version. It's going to be very, very close in terms of overall, like, the system is basically identical. It's going to be like 15% less powerful overall compared to the 4090. And then you're going to save more money. The big downside with the 4080 versus the 4090 version, the 4080 does not have 16 gigs of VRAM. The 4090 version does. And so if you're after 16 gigs of VRAM for basically with a 4090, you can just go all ultra settings all the time at QHD in every single game that you play, and you'll never have to change a setting. The 4080 in games like Hogwarts and Last of Us, 12 gigs of VRAM is actually not enough VRAM to play all of those games at maximum settings. You're gonna have to turn the textures down to like medium or high in order to not run into 1% low stuttering. So that's kind of like my big qualm with the 4080 at the QHD resolution. It's a phenomenal amount of graphics power. It's just going to take a little bit of finagling some of your settings with the 4080, which I think is not that big of a deal. The overall user experience will be almost exactly the same. And obviously, you're going to be able to play all of your games at QHD resolution at very high frame rates with the 4080. And at 4090 is just even higher frame rates, and you don't have to fiddle with any settings because everything can just be run on ultra settings, even textures on ultra with 16 gigs of VRAM. So last up, we have the HP Omen 17. This is the cheapest RTX 4090. I talked about this at the beginning of the live stream. Comes with an i7-13700HX. So you get a downgraded CPU versus the Legion Pro 7i. This only provides 21,500 in Cinebench R23, but it's overall very good gaming CPU. Just phenomenal overall value. Right now at $2449, this is definitely the cheapest RTX 4090 money can buy. And if you're after just the most graphics performance for your money at the upper end of the 4090 spectrum, this is it. We had good temperatures, good overall performance in all of the games I tested. I did a detailed unboxing live stream with this exact configuration. The display is also a very good display. QHD 165 Hertz, 370 nits. It's not a 240 Hertz display. That's one of the areas in which the HP team saved money. It's also not 16:10 aspect ratio. It's only 16:9 aspect ratio. So that's a downside here for sure. At least if you're after a 16:10 aspect ratio, maybe you're not. But in general, you know, you've got a bigger chin on the device itself. I really loved the optomechanical keyboard that I have on mine, and the thermals on it, surprisingly good. Port selection on it, absolutely amazing. Fairly portable for the money, but just absolutely monster performance for the money. And it did feel like a pretty premium overall experience, but not quite as premium as the ultra high end, like the Razers and the Asus Scar series, or even the MSI, or like it's not an ultra premium system. You're definitely saving some money in certain areas, but where it counts, great gaming experience, good thermals, it's good. It's a great all-arounder. I can definitely recommend the Omen 17. I think one of the downsides here is the screen does have a bit more of a wobble to it. So if you're looking for something that you're going to move all the time, I would probably pick the Legion Pro 7i definitely over the Omen 17 for that reason alone. Just the wobble on the screen can be a little bit annoying if you're going to be moving it or keeping it like in your lap, for example, in a car a lot. A stiffer hinge is definitely an advantage in that type of scenario. So if you missed it, be sure to go back and watch through this video. If you're looking for specific price points, I went through all of the best deals for July. And like I said, this spreadsheet covers literally everything out there that money can buy. Pretty much right now in the entire gaming laptop space, we track all of the sales, we track all of the pricing, pretty much almost all of the configs, and we have estimated benchmarks and all the detailed specs and links on where to buy just about everything. And if you want to sign up for updates, you can also follow the list right here, and you can get daily email updates about laptops when they come into stock, go out of stock, when they go on sale. All of that are right here if you click the follow button. So we do send those updates out basically every day, almost every day. Occasionally we get a little busy, but absolutely phenomenal deals compared to just 4 or 5 months ago. Like, things are definitely like $200 to $300 cheaper overall in almost all of the whole spectrum, right? Like, we get 4050s, all the 4050s at launch were $1,000. Now the cheapest ones are $800. The 4060s were $1,200 at launch. Now we're getting 4060s around the $1,000 mark when they're on sale. The 4070s were $1,500 at the most expensive, and now they're like $1,330, $170 cheaper. The 4080s, the cheapest ones we had at launch were like $2,400, $2,500. Now they're $2,000. That's $500 cheaper for the cheapest 4080. The RTX 4090 at launch, the cheapest were around $2,750, and now we're $2,449. So that's $300 cheaper. So things have definitely come down in price a little bit, and I think these sales are really good value overall. And I think it's a really good time to buy right now in this like kind of summer sale, this kind of summer lull that's going on. I think these prices that we're seeing on some of these laptops are going to probably mimic like the very best deals that we're talking about today. Like, let's talk through the best 3 deals, I think. I would say this Acer Nitro 5 with a 4050 is the best, close to the let's see here. Hold on. No. This Acer Nitro 5 with a 3070, this is the best deal under $1,000. QHD display, 3070 Ti, Ryzen 7 6800H, 32 gigs of RAM. It's just a monster deal. The best deal overall, I would say, for a Radeon GPU is going to be the Alienware M17, and this is going to be a very premium product. So if you're after something that's like big and not very portable, and you're okay with a Radeon GPU, this thing is probably the best value big laptop on the list right now on the top deal section. Especially if you're an esports gamer, this would be one I would consider, because it's Radeon GPUs are all about raw graphics performance, and you're getting a 360 hertz display. So you're going to be able to play a lot of esports games at over 240 FPS. And so this thing's going to be awesome. It's going to be really awesome overall deal. Then the Vector here being the best deal with a 4080, at least in terms of raw value. But the Legion Pro 7i is probably one, I would say it's worth spending $200 more for the Pro 7i, but if you're right on the edge, the Vector is also just phenomenal value in terms of graphical performance for your money. So yeah, and then if you want to go for the best value 4090, the Omen 17. Like, this is my top pick for a 4090 on a discount right now. I really liked the Omen 17 I had, and can definitely recommend it. But it's obviously not very portable. Now, real quick, let's talk best value portable laptop. So portable laptop being, say, less than 5 pounds. Let's just go down to our weight, and we're going to put 5 pounds as our limit. All right, so in terms of portability, the Acer Nitro 5, is that really less than 5 pounds? This laptop, I would think this would weigh more than 5 pounds. I wonder if that is correct or not. But I know the Katana and Pulse 15, all of those laptops are right around the 5 pound mark. If we go down into our other laptops down here, We got the G14 that is actually on sale for, this thing is actually, didn't quite make the list in terms of raw value, but if you're after portability and value, the Zephyrus G14 right now is on sale with the 4050 for $1279. So this is, I think, let's pop over here. I think this is normally $1449 full price. So 150, $1429 for full price on this normally. So, you know, if you're looking for something more portable and more budgety and you want RTX 4000 support, this is obviously a good value. The 3060 version of this laptop was $799 recently though, and that's no longer for sale at that price point. Maybe it'll go back to $799 again sometime in the future if they still need to sell more of them, but yeah, that deal is gone now. That would be my top portability pick previously, but just know that yeah, I mean that Zephyrus G14 4050, it's a decent deal, but I'd probably go with the 16-inch version. Let me just type in let's go G14 and see which ones are on sale. I don't think the other ones are on sale. The 4070 version's actually on sale. I didn't realize that. That's nice. That brings the 4070 down to 4060 level pricing. Is the 4060 version not on sale? That's interesting if that's the case. So here is the 4070 version. It's $250 off. This thing is going to be just, it's going to be awesome. The main issue, of course, being the VRAM limitation, only 8 gigs of VRAM with a QHD display. You're going to have to fiddle with VRAM, with your textures once again, in order to get smooth gameplay. It's amazing to me if they did not sell, if they did not put the 4060 version on sale. They didn't. So if you want the G14, just go into the 4070 version of the G14 right now at $1599. That's phenomenal value, a very high quality display, and if you tune this thing to be tuned correctly, the way I did my efficiency tuning guide, it's an absolutely amazing laptop that can provide just a great display, great gaming, super portable, good ports overall for its size, and great CPU performance for its size and pricing. So this would be a phenomenal deal as well at $1599, being a 4070 on sale. 500 nits display, very high quality display on this. Absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so let's check chat and see if there's any questions. Okay. Okay, please don't spam chat if you can. I don't know what the Omen 45 is. Okay. All right. Any thoughts on the Omen 16 4070 with 13700HX? Let's check that out. So this is the Omen. So I'm just gonna use the model section. I'll filter to Omen 16. And you're looking for the 4070, Omen 16 4070. Omen 16, interesting. So I see a 4060 version. I don't see a 4070. Oh, there it is right here. Okay, so $1799 for this. This seems a little bit high unless it's on sale a little bit lower than what, I don't know. Let's see. Let's take a look what the pricing is. $1799. I don't think this would be worth it at this price. At, like, for example, right? You compare this Omen 16 versus the G14 4070. This thing's $200 cheaper. It's got a higher quality display. I would recommend the G14 over the Omen 16 without a doubt. Given the pricing and everything, you know, because this is going to be a lower quality display as well, I believe. That's a 240 hertz QHD display. That's nice, but it's only 300 nits and 100% sRGB, which is not as good as the G14. But it is a larger display size, which, you know, it may be an advantage to you if that's the type of thing you're at. I do love the design overall, and I have not reviewed this yet. The Omen 16, though, thermally looks pretty interesting and could be a very good laptop, but like I said, I have not reviewed it yet. It certainly is promising, but I would definitely wait for a sale, bring it down to the $1,600 price point. And at $1,600, it's a decent buy. It's just like you compare this versus, where is it? I got so many tabs open now. This. And it's like, this is so close to the Omen 16 in terms of performance, value, even the 4070 in terms of raw graphics performance. This thing's going to be very close. And this thing's, it's only $969 right now. So like, but it's obviously, it's an Acer Nitro, so it's gonna be more plasticky, not as high quality. There's downsides to this too. And some people are gonna be like, I'm never buying a Nitro series ever because I want something more premium. And I get that. From a specs, raw specs performance perspective, this is so hard to beat right now. This is the top deal to beat, I think. But obviously this is, I think, a nicer build overall and a nicer, much nicer design with arguably a nicer quality display. And I would buy a 4070 over a 3070 Ti for the frame generation support if it's the same price. But these are obviously vastly different price points. So yeah, for the Omen 16, I would just wait for it to go on sale. Okay, checking out chat. Okay, is the 4060 Zephyrus G16 on sale at Best Buy? I do not think it is right now. If it does go on sale, it would be definitely one to consider and to look at because I think it's a great all-around package with Windows Hello, G-Sync, Advanced Optimus, good webcam, great speakers, very portable, and excellent overall thermals and performance with the Zephyrus G16. But yeah. Hopefully you can review the Zephyrus M16 4080 Mini LED. It's $26.99. Yeah, that's a very nice laptop, but it's just very high price for what you're getting. I just think that the Zephyrus M16 4080 is just like, I mean, it's got the mini LED display. That's phenomenal. I do think it's better value than the Razer series. It's just the Zephyr, like it's just $26.99. And I'm just like comparing the price to performance. It's just more portable, I guess. That's probably the biggest advantage, more portable and a better quality display. So I do think it could be worth it for people that are looking for that type of a laptop. So any thoughts on the coil whine on the Asus laptops, please? Diego, thanks for the question. That's a great question. The Asus Strix laptops were the biggest ones, so like the Scar series and the Strix G16, G18. My understanding and my feedback I've gotten from viewers on the G16 review is that the newest ones did not have any coil whine. So that's nice to hear. Now, I don't, like, there was a BIOS update that was supposed to help with the Asus coil whine. I did not actually test that on my Strix G18. My Strix G18 did have a little bit of coil whine. I do have a Scar 16 still. I could test that update to see if that helped the coil whine issues. But that would probably be an updated video. Definitely very interested to check that out. The other big thing about the coil whine is that I believe the new models, Asus may have fixed that, like any coil whine issues from a manufacturing perspective. They might be starting to look for that more heavily in their manufacturing process. I do think it's very likely that the new units being sold now will have that issue addressed. I need to talk to Asus and ask them if there's any updates on that. But right now, I think it's likely that the coil whine issues are fixed. But if you're going to buy an Asus Strix laptop, my advice is to buy it from a place like Best Buy, where you can easily return it if you have a really bad coil whine and you don't want to deal with that, right? So that's probably my biggest advice, buying an Asus Strix laptop or Asus laptop in general. Primarily, it's just the Strix lineup that have the coil whine. The Zephyrus series, none of the Zephyrus series had coil whine that I know of. So that's kind of my take on the Strix series right now. Randy says, no coil whine on my Scar 18 with 4090. The new batches of the Asus laptops fixed the coil whine, according to King Dragon. That's likely the case, but I have not verified that, right? Aaron says, review the Zephyrus M16 4090. I do. This is obviously a very popular laptop and high demand. I'll have to check it out. Zabald says, finally have you back live. Good evening. Thank you for your review. My Legion being a beast. I love it. Grad man, I'm glad it's awesome for you, man. That's awesome. It's definitely a phenomenal laptop and definitely one of my top recommended right now. We talked about it earlier today. Thoughts on the Acer Predator 14 4070 mini LED versus Razer 14 4070? Ooh, interesting question. let's pull up these laptops. So we got you want to compare the Blade 14 with a 4070, and you want to compare the Predator 14. So this is one of the reasons why I love this laptop, or why I love this sheet, because you can easily filter down and find laptops to compare and look at all the specs and everything, right? So, all right, so here's the Blade 14. This thing is the new version of the Razer Blade 14. It's got an updated Ryzen 9 7940HS. That's the Zen 4 architecture. I love that. RTX 4070. It's supposed to be up to 105 watts of graphical power, which is the maximum. It costs $26.99. I am asking Razer to send me one of these. They're getting their review units together. I hope they send me one sometime soon so I can do an unboxing review of it. A QHD plus 240 Hz 100% DCI-P3 color gamut display. I don't know the exact brightness of the display. It's a 68 watt-hour battery. It should have pretty dang good battery life, and it should have very good overall performance. And the Ryzen chip should be also awesome, right? So I'm guessing, if I were to guess, I would guess that Razer probably put at least a 300 nits brightness display in here, likely a 500 nits display brightness display. It's interesting that like they have not literally listed it for the display quality anywhere in here. Vapor chamber cooling in the Blade 14. I think the Blade 14 is likely one of the very best thin, light, portable. Obviously, you have the very expensive Razer tax, $26.99 for this. And the primary thing I think when I think the Razer Blade 14 versus the competition is you get the metal chassis. The metal chassis, it's the unibody aluminum, super rigid. I love the build quality on all Razer products. I have not seen the Blade 14 yet in person or anything, but I am currently using a Blade 18 as my laptop of choice. So it's gonna be a tough call in terms of the Blade 14 versus the Zephyrus G14, because the G14 can be had with an RTX 4080, which is a vastly more powerful GPU for your money, and it's only $24.99. So you save $200 and you get way more graphics performance, just as good at a display, I think. So for me, I would pick the G14 over the Blade 14 because of the GPU option. Like if the Blade 14 offered a 4080 and a 4090, that might be a little different, because then you have to decide, do I want to spend more money for just as much performance, but like in a better build quality? So whereas the Blade 14, you're basically saying, I want better build quality versus lower level, and lower levels of performance, versus the G14, which is not as good a build quality, but better levels of performance and maybe better thermals. I'm not sure about the Blade 14. Acer Predator Triton 14. I have not seen this laptop in person. I have seen Triton laptops in person before. They are more of a plasticky build. I don't think they're like a super premium type of product, in my opinion. Now, it's a QHD plus 250 hertz mini LED display, and it certainly is going to be arguably one of the very best display options out there that you can buy in the 14-inch category. It's going to be matching like the G14 with their mini LED display, I would think. You've got different display options. It says HDR 600 certified. That's the same 600 nits brightness as the G14 mini LED display. Looks like it's liquid metal on here with heat pipes. Looks like a pretty beefy heat pipe solution for a 14-inch laptop. I mean, I anticipate this is going to be a very nice laptop all around. And I don't think it's like going to be like necessarily a bad buy. I think this is going to be a higher value buy compared to the Blade 14. But when I compare the Predator Triton 14 versus the Asus G14 with a, let's say, a 4070, like this thing's $15.99. It's $400 cheaper than the Triton 14. And this thing does not have the mini LED version on it right here at this price point, but it is still a very high quality display. At $1599, this is just $400 less. It's better value than the Triton. That's why Asus is dominating, I think, in the 14-inch category segment in terms of value for your money. And if you don't like the Zephyrus G14 as a design, that just like you don't like its design or you had a bad experience with it or whatever, and you want something else, that's when you rule that out. And then I would be looking at the Blade 14 or like the Triton or maybe the ZenBook 14 OLED with a 4070, another option, but obviously more expensive than the G14, especially considering the G14 4070s on sale right now for $1599. It's just really high value for your money in the 14-inch category. So, okay. So, David G says, will you review the Acer Predator 18 with the mini LED option? I think it's a great competitor. I'd love to review it. I just, right now, I just don't have the money for it to be able to buy it, to review it, but I may do it in the future here. That's one of the laptops I want to review sometime this summer, before the fall. So we'll see. For the Omen I mentioned earlier, you found it at $1,499. Okay, at $1,499, that's definitely a lot better value. Because I was saying at $1,600, it's a good deal at that point. $1,500 makes it probably a very good deal. Still not quite as good a deals as the top deals we talked about today, but it's certainly one to consider. I don't think you would regret that purchase at $1,499. It's going to be a worth it at the cost, probably. Micro Center has the Legion Pro 7i with 4090 for $28.99. What are your thoughts? It's cheaper if you buy it online than that. Like right now, Micro Center's definitely had it for sale for cheaper than that at previous points. So definitely don't buy it for $28.99. At least wait for Micro Center to put it back on sale if you're going to buy the Legion Pro 7i from Micro Center. Because like right now, the Legion Pro 7i is cheaper on Lenovo's website. Is it possible for you to review some Clevo laptops? Yeah, I'd love to review some Clevo laptops. They're just not very popular, so they don't get very many views. That's the main reason. I have owned 3 or 4 Clevo laptops in the past. And I've liked them, but they're just not a very premium product typically. And they're honestly not, I don't know, Clevo's struggling, I think, to compete from a design perspective as well as a value perspective. Like some of these deals that we talked about today, I don't think Clevo would have anything on any of those laptops from a price to performance value perspective right now. I'd have to see what they're offering in some of these laptops, but right now Clevo has just been, I think they've been struggling to compete. But I hope so. Kaylin says, loving my Pro 7i, but make sure to check your core differentials, having to replace my whole vapor chamber assembly to new liquid metal application because of overheating issues. Interesting. Is Lenovo covering that, Kaylin? That's interesting. Okay. Sweet. King Dragon says, people are not getting the Zephyrus M16. They're not getting it for the price to performance, but due to a superior build quality, display quality, and overall portability. It's an excellent laptop. I totally agree with that. It's the kind of laptop that fits a segment that competes very, very well against like the Blade series. Or like the more portable, in the portable laptop segment, it's one of the top laptops to consider because it's such a high quality display and very light and portable all around. So yeah, I do think the Zephyrus M16 is a good choice if you're that type of person. Ahmed says, does Razer or Asus top of the line laptops usually get a good sale around Black Friday? They will usually come down $200 to $300. At least I think the last couple of years. I've been monitoring the Black Friday sales for like 3 or 4 years now, and yeah, they usually do come down here and there, like $200-$300, but usually not a huge sale. What do you think of putting a 4060 in QHD laptops like Lenovo did with their Slim 5i? I think that the 4060 can play QHD games really well, as long as you're willing to fiddle with texture settings. Even a 4050 can play QHD games pretty dang well on like medium to high settings, as long as you don't turn on ray tracing, and you can turn textures down to lower levels if you're running into stuttering. So it's right now, the big limitation is textures. That's pretty much the primary limitation in terms of QHD gaming. And for any 4050, 4060, 4070, you're just going to have to be okay with turning down textures. Learn how to do that if you're going to buy one of those GPUs. Otherwise, you got to get a laptop with more VRAM, 12 or 16 gigs. So I feel like if Lenovo made a mini LED screen, it's game over. Well, it's certainly, it would make the Legion Pro 7i more compelling, but a mini LED display would also drive the cost up higher. So if they could fit the mini LED in there without increasing the cost too much, that would certainly be a nice advantage. But yeah, the other thing is the Lenovo Legion series, it's just not the most premium laptop experience overall, I think. I do think that the Razer Blade 16 and 18 are a little bit more premium, at least in some aspects, with the unibody, aluminum chassis, glass touchpad, display qualities, and all of that. But I do think Lenovo competes really well. It's just, they compete exceptionally well for an overall package value for your money, just not necessarily in the most premium category. Like the most premium category, Asus, MSI, and Razer beat the best Lenovo products right now. So just depends. I'm hoping the 4070 Ti comes with 12 gigs of VRAM. Dude, I hope that the 4060, I hope that all the next generation products come with at least 12 gigs of VRAM, even for 1080p gaming. And I hope that the higher end ones are going to start coming with 24 gigs of VRAM, because any products that are designed potentially for 4K gaming need 24 gigs of VRAM, and for QHD gaming, I think we're going to eventually need 24 gigs of VRAM for the latest games. So it's just a matter of time before that happens. But if you want to be future-proof for 5 years, having 24 gigs of VRAM would be really nice. Definitely would help with future-proofing. I assume it'll come with 8 to 12 gigs, but it'll be a full 140 watt powered. Yeah, Zabald. So like, that's what I think Asus is, or NVIDIA is doing. The next generation, the Ti version of the 40, maybe the 4060 Ti if they do a 4060 Ti for laptops. But certainly the 4070, 4080, and 4090 Ti versions of the gaming laptop space, those ones are likely to have a higher TDP power limit, higher core counts. It's what NVIDIA does. They like artificially limited, I believe, the TDP this year down from 140 watts, really down to like 105 watts, and designed everything around those thinner, lighter laptops, which honestly, it makes the thinner and lighter laptops more compelling this generation than previously speaking, because you really needed more GPU juice. Even for an RTX 3060, you really wanted at least 130 watts of power, which requires a thicker laptop. These days, all the way up to a 4070, 105 watts of power can be had in the thinnest and lightest laptops pretty much, if it's designed well. So it makes the Blade 14, that's the thinnest and lightest laptop, just as powerful as the Blade 18 when both of them have a 4060 or 4070 in it, for example, in terms of gaming potential. So it makes really the 4080 and 4090 GPUs stand apart in terms of gaming performance. But I anticipate, yes, the next generation, or maybe even this interim Ti generation, they may bump it to where 140 watts of power suddenly becomes important again in that laptop segment for the mid-range. Does the screen hinge on the Omen you tested really suck? I don't think the screen hinge sucks. It's just got a little bit more wobble than like my Blade, or like, well, I guess my Blade 18 has some decent wobble to it. It just doesn't feel as strong and as stiff as some of the laptops out there. But on a table, it's perfectly fine. It was great. It was no problem. It's just like if you're gonna have it in your laptop on your lap on the go was the primary issue with the Omen 17 series. Is it possible to use the M16 on 150 watts all the time? Is as powerful as the Legion Pro 7? No, it's not. The Zephyrus M16 is not. It's AMD's fault for not competing with NVIDIA in the laptop space. Yeah, AMD just basically gave up in terms of competing for the highest levels of performance. I just don't think their technology is quite there. in terms of competing at like in a confined laptop space for the most powerful hardware spec range. But for the mid and low end, I think AMD is actually out competing NVIDIA potentially for the raw graphical price to performance ratio, especially in products like the Asus Ally, the handheld. That's just phenomenal value for your money in terms of gaming performance at $700. So, but yeah, in the upper end space, NVIDIA is absolutely dominating AMD in the gaming laptops segment, at least for now. I hope one day it will flip around again, or at least I hope AMD tries to compete against the top NVIDIA products in the next year or two. It's fingers crossed, right? Blade 18 or Legion 7 Pro 4090, which is best? I would probably go, for most people, I think the Legion 7 Pro 7i is actually the name of the laptop. 4090 is probably the way to go in terms of value for your money and overall package. The thing about the Blade 18 is it's a huge display. It's a better quality display. It costs more, but and the ports I think are a little better on the Blade 18. It's thinner. In some ways, it can be more portable because it's not as thick as the Legion Pro 7i. But the thing about my Blade 18, and I'm going to make a 6-month review about this, the flickering issue is still existent on the Blade 18, which makes me not want to recommend the Blade 18 as much. So I've messaged Razer several times about it. I'm going to try to make an updated video on the Blade 18 sometime soon here, like a 6-month user review, detailed review. And I'm hopefully within the next month, Razer can actually fix the flickering issue permanently. Currently, it's fixed when you're in dedicated GPU mode only on the Blade 18, which means that you don't have good battery life. So if you want good battery life, then you basically have to switch it over in the BIOS to hybrid mode every time you want to have good battery life, which is just not a good workflow for having good battery life. And then of course, when you're in the good battery life mode, the screen's flickering. So I hope it's fixed in the latest Blade 18s, but my Blade 18, and as far as I know, it's a software issue. It's still not been fixed. So for now, I'm hesitating to recommend the Blade 18 to people who might have screen flickering issues until Razer fixes it. Once Razer fixes it, once Razer fixes it, I think the Blade 18 is my #1 recommended if you have an unlimited budget. So yeah, okay. Is the difference in person between the G14 IPS versus mini LED significant? The biggest difference between those two is going to be contrast ratio and peak brightness. Overall color gamut's going to be about the same. And no, I wouldn't say it's a huge difference between the two displays. The G14 display, all of the new 2023 G14 displays are phenomenal. It's really high quality displays on the Zephyrus G14 overall. Thoughts on the Legion 5 Pro 3070 Ti with 150 watt power limit. It's an excellent laptop overall, but you want to get it at the best possible price. Don't just buy it. I would say for a 3070 Ti Legion 5 Pro 12700H, you probably don't want to pay more than $1,200 for that right now. If it's less than $1,200, then that's a pretty dang good deal. But yeah, like that's probably around the price that I would say that 3070 Ti might be worth it in the Legion 5 Pro. Okay. I hope this was super helpful to you. If it was, slap that like button, hit the subscribe button, and obviously come back for more. I will try to do another live stream this week. I've got 4 laptops coming in the mail. So we got 4 unboxings coming up at least in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll have an unboxing review, I believe, of the Omen 16 and the Asus TUF F15 are the next 2 that are likely to come in first. And then the 2 after that, I'm trying to think of which ones I ordered. We'll see. And then, of course, I've got some other products that... I've got the XMG Neo 17. They sent in a new water cooler. And we've also got undervolting support on the Neo 17. And we're going to try to do memory overclocking all in one live stream coming up. So that's going to be fun. We're going to see if overclocking your memory is actually worth it and what kind of performance gains we can get from memory overclocking. So that's the plan coming up over the next few weeks. I do still want to do a Legion Pro 7i optimization video, as well as a Legion 5 Pro repasting video. Those are still on my target list. The reason why I haven't done the Legion Pro 7i optimization video is that when I started doing prep work for that, I ran into software bugs and glitches that prevented me from optimizing it the way I wanted to. I got on the Discord, didn't actually get everything resolved, and I just got to figure all that out. So it's kind of like I just got to go through and spend a day troubleshooting the Legion Pro 7i so I can get it optimized exactly how I want, so that way I can guide you guys on how to optimize it, right? So it'd probably be a very good video, because if I'm struggling to optimize the Legion Pro 7i to be perfect, then probably most users are too. So anyway, do I like the GE78? Yes, but it's obviously not a laptop that provides very good bang for the buck. So it's kind of like, I think the 78 is a phenomenal laptop overall. And that's another one I got to do an unboxing benchmark review of, right? So anyway. Okay. Please do a tutorial on the upgrading of the GT77 Titan. Well, I did a lot of videos on the GT77 Titan. I'm not sure what you need, but check my video history list. I did a lot of hands-on with the GT77, so... I feel like Dell is dead. I don't think Dell is dead, but Alienware is not competing very well. Okay, we're going to end the live stream. I can talk about laptops literally forever. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I'll see you guys soon. Peace out. Enjoy life. I hope anyone that buys a laptop, I hope you guys enjoy it. Absolutely love it.